Thank you.
Meanwhile, the Republican infighting over tax reform is getting pretty bad. New York Congressman Peter King, he's blasting Mick Mulvaney in a tweet saying, here we go, from Sandy aid to tax reform, Mick Mulvaney tries to screw New York, excuse my French, probably feels inferior because New York subsidizes his state of South Carolina. Wow. So with all this infighting, what does it mean? I mean, are Republicans ever going to get anything done here? Joining me, House Republican Conference Vice Chair, Congressman Doug Collins. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, Trish, good to see you as well.
All right, so what's the prognosis here? Is it going to happen?
It's going to happen tomorrow. We're getting this thing done. We're going to start our debates tonight. We're going to go to the floor tomorrow. We're going to pass it out of the House. The Senate's going to finish up their work by next week, and then we're going to be able to put this to the floor there so that we can get this to conference committee and begin this process that we promised, and it's coming to an end. And I think that's the good part about this whole thing. Stories can go on everywhere, but what we're looking at is actually getting something accomplished.
All right. Well, you are very optimistic, and I like hearing this optimism today. I think the market could use a little optimism right now.
Hey, we're there for you, Trish.
A Dow that's off 136 points. So one of the problems, of course, is this whole individual mandate and the repeal of the individual mandate. Do you think that this goes through in the Senate when they're talking about repealing that individual mandate?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, this is something that we've also talked about many years. The Senate couldn't get this done during health care reform. We did in the House, and now they're able to put this back in. This is an onerous tax. This is forcing people to do something. And really, when you look at the Obamacare system, you look at the insurance system, the people are willing to pay a tax not to have to go into this awful insurance that is not health care. It's health insurance. So for us, it's just saying let's continue to do this. It also frees up the room to work more in tax reform. So I think the biggest thing here is if the senators can do that, we're all supportive of that. They need to pass their bill. We'll pass our bill. Conference will then work this out.
Okay. It seems like you guys have more of a consensus on all this than they do, because I do think that when it comes to Senator Collins in Maine or Senator Murkowski, Senator Paul, I mean, you're going to have some sticking points along the way. So it's not necessarily fait accompli, but you know, I'm not ruling it out either. Let me ask you this. SALT, state and local tax deductions, that is something that clearly, you know, is on Peter King's mind right now, the congressman from New York, because he knows how much his people pay, you know, up to 9% in state taxes, up to 4% in New York City. Not being able to deduct 13%, Congressman, that's going to hurt for some New Yorkers.
Well, and I think if you look at the two bills, the House is built into that, and there's also some consideration for the folks in New York and for the folks in Illinois and California. But my question is this: if especially for the folks in these higher tax states, is why don't they start electing people on the state level that understand that you can't tax your way to freedom, you can't tax your way to better jobs, you can't tax your way to be having a better opportunity to climb the ladder of success. I think when you look across the country, the states that are growing, the states that are actually building jobs and building wealth creation, are those that have understood that you can't tax your people to death. If this is a highlight, or this is the magnifying glass that needs to be shown on these high-tax states, then so be it. Let them begin to go out to their states and their state and local legislators and say, quit taxing us to death, because the federal is cutting my taxes. We're going to still have it in our House plan so that they can deduct part of their state and their property prices on this and start on the SALT.
I know. You know what? I agree with you in my heart completely. I do not like the idea that New York and Bill de Blasio can spend the money the way they want, and it's really coming off the heels of other federal taxpayers. I don't like it one bit, Congressman, but I also don't like the idea of the economy in New York or in New Jersey or in California or many other states. I don't like the idea of these economies suffering, because take a look here. We've got a nice little graphic up there. New York, California combined make up almost a quarter of this country's GDP. So if they start to drop off, we're going to have bigger ramifications for that nationally.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that. I think what you're going to see is, again, it is easy to take a tax plan and say, this is the part I like, this is the part I don't like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. We've got to look at this into totality. And I think when you look inside the Illinois, you look inside the New Yorks, you look inside the Californias, and you look at the median taxpayer, you look at that average family, you look at those folks that are going to benefit from this, you look at and we're talking about individuals. Let's go back to the real job creation point, and that is for many who are on the upper end, and that is through the pass-through corporations, those small business generators.
You guys are doing good work there. Let me just, final question to you. Have you thought about maybe saying, okay, we'll save the individual stuff for later and just do the corporate piece of this?
Trish, I mean, you've just been talking about the tired old talking points of the Democrats. I mean, let's get real. If we try to simply just do corporate and small business, they would go, crazy trying to talk about how this is just, benefiting the wealthy. They wouldn't get off their talking points. They believe fundamentally government can spend your money better than you can. Let's at least point out what is actually going on here. It's not a matter of tax policy. It's a matter of we're better at it than you are. We would rather have the money in D.C. Give it to us. We don't like tax reform because it loses our power. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And Congressman, I know that you and I agree on one thing, and that's that each one of us in this country does a better job than the government at allocating our own funds. Bring it to the individual.
That's it. Because at the end of the day, it's about dreams. It's about those families being able to sit around the table and say, let's make something that money can't buy. Let's have time together. Let's go spend time together, take a vacation, buy the stuff we need, have the stuff that we choose in our families to make those memories that last forever. When you start entering into the people's homes and their dreams and their ambitions for their kids and for their futures, that's where we win tax reform. That's the message we got to continue on.
Congressman Collins, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks much. Take care.
Markets off their high.